Welcome to AmItheAsshole, where OP leave his boyfriend at a party after he said OP is too sensitive for being upset about his friends making fun of her culture. I, 27-year-old female, have been dating my boyfriend Atlas, 29-year-old male, for 1.5 years. We come from different cultural backgrounds. I am an Indian, and he is an American. We never really had huge issues pertaining to that, but then there's this always underlying tension when it comes to cultural differences. More so when we're around his friends. Last weekend, my boyfriend invited me to a small get-together with his friends, whom I already knew. They are nice guys, but they have a tendency to make jokes about things they do not understand, especially my culture. They would say things like, "Do you have an arranged marriage waiting on you?" And, "Does mommy and daddy get upset with you if you don't have curry for dinner every night?" It's always in humor, but sometimes these things get irritating to hear. Anyway, at that party, things started off fine. We were drinking, talking, the vibe was good. But then after a while, one of my boyfriend's friends, Jake, started making comment on my culture. Trying to be funny, he asked me if my family would disown me for dating out of my race. I could have laughed it off, but he kept going into these jokes about dowries, arranged marriages, and how my parents probably had my wedding all planned out behind my back. It hurt, but I didn't say anything at first. Then he joked that my family should be so disappointed that I wasn't the good Indian daughter they had wanted me to be. It struck a nerve. It was an issue with which I had always struggled myself, keeping my culture and living my life as I wanted it. So I looked at my boyfriend, hoping that he would step in or at least have something to say, but instead, he laughed along with his friends. I tried to brush it off again, and then my boyfriend added, "She is probably just too sensitive about all this. You know how they are about their traditions." That was when I reached my breaking point. I felt he was taking away from me and placing me in the same bracket as his friends for a joke. I stood up, took my things, and just walked away without saying a word. When I came home later, he had 100 texts asking what the hell was wrong with me and why I had to make a scene. He said I overreacted to a harmless joke and that I had embarrassed him in front of his friends, adding I should be used to these comments by now, since how many times we've been with his group. I told him this, to which he replied that I was being too sensitive, needing to learn how to take a joke. He hasn't spoken with me since then, and now I am stuck thinking maybe I overreacted by walking out. So, Reddit? AITA for leaving after my boyfriend and his friends made fun of my culture? Could I have been in the wrong, or was I right to stand up for myself? OP is certainly not an AH. Her boyfriend's friends repeatedly made offensive and racist comments about her culture. Her boyfriend, who should have stood up for OP, also joined his friends and labeled her too sensitive. It is not acceptable at all, and in a relationship, it is unimaginable that a partner mocks the other in front of others. It is really a toxic relationship, and I don't think OP is in the right place. As for rating, I would give OP 0 out of 5, and OP's boyfriend 3.5 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now move on to another AmItheAsshole, where OP refused to let her now homeless sister move in with her because she ignored her warnings about her toxic husband. My 29-year-old female's sister, Emily, 35-year-old female, were close growing up, as our household was pretty difficult, so we learned to lean on each other a lot over the years. Through everything, I would say we have always had each other's backs until recently. Emily married her husband, Mike, 36-year-old male, about 7 years ago, and right from the start, I haven't liked that man because of his controlling and manipulative nature, and I would even go to say he is emotionally abusive. However, my sister always came to his defense, saying that is just the way he was, and that he was a good provider. I tried talking with her about it a million times over the years, telling her that his behavior was not normal, that she deserved better, but she always blew me off. About 2 years ago, things started getting worse. My brother-in-law lost his job, and instead of picking himself up and finding something else, he kind of just spiraled. He got really bitter and started taking it out on Emily and the kids, 6F and 4M. I know for a fact that he has never been physically violent, but he yells and puts her down in front of the kids. He controls their finances to the last dollar and cent, so that Emily doesn't have anything to say about anything whatsoever. Yet, she continued putting up with him. Every time I brought it up, she would tell me I didn't understand. They just had to get through this rough patch.
I kept my distance after a while because it was exhausting trying to convince her to leave when she wouldn't listen.
Well, last month, it reached the lowest ebb. Mike took out this huge loan without telling her and blew the money on God knows what. And now they really are in serious debt. He refuses to get another job and blames Emily for everything, saying she spends too much on the kids but in reality, she barely buys them anything outside of essentials. Now, they face the very grim prospect of losing the house, as they cannot make the payments. Last week, my sister called me, crying, saying she couldn't take anymore. She was finally ready to leave Mike, but needed a place to stay for a little while until she could figure things out. I really felt sorry for her, but the thing is that I warned her for years this would happen. I told her time and again that Mike was toxic, and she needed to leave before things got worse. She never listened, and now it's all blown apart. She's expecting me to pick up the mess. I live in a small duplex with my boyfriend. We can fit her and her kids in, but it would be absolutely disruptive in our lives, and I don't want this to happen. Moreover, deep inside, I am resentful because she ignored my practical advice when I suggested her to part ways with her husband. Had she listened to me, she would not have been facing all this mess. So, I told her that I couldn't take her in, not now at least, and that maybe she should look into some shelters or other resources for women in those situations. I even told her that I could help her find a lawyer so that she could get the legal aspect of this sorted out. But that wasn't what she wanted to hear. She began to get upset, saying things like how I was abandoning her at the worst possible time. She said I was selfish, and that family is supposed to be there for each other, especially at times like this. Now, I am receiving angry calls from my parents, who live in Vermont while my sister and I live in New York. They say that I am cold and heartless for not opening my home to my sister and her children. Initially, I tried to make them understand that it was not possible for me, but they continued to insist. So, last week, I told them that if they were so merciful, they should invite her to their home, or help her financially. Since then, my parents have been angry with me, and I have not received any calls from them. Now I am confused whether I am wrong or right, and don't know what to do. So, am I the AH here? And please also give me some practical advice.
OP is not at all an AH. She has every right to set her boundaries and is not obliged to disrupt her own life for her sister, especially when she has repeatedly warned her sister about the consequences of staying in a toxic relationship. OP's sister and parents are being demanding and entitled. OP is right in protecting her own peace while offering her sister alternative solutions. So, I would give OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale, and her sister deserves 2.5 out of 5. OP's parents are also a little bit AH, so I would give them 1 out of 5 on the AH scale. What do the Mac Reddit fans think? Is the OP an AH or not? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like the stories I brought you, just hit the like button, share them as much as you can, and don't forget to subscribe to Mac Reddit for a daily dose. Bye bye. See you tomorrow with some more spicy fries.